Today on the Gear Locker, we're talking duty belts. Delta kit duty belts to be specific. Say that 5 times fast. This is part 1 of a few videos talking about the Delta belts, specifically the duty belts that were used during the Battle of Mogadishu, or anywhere from that 91 to 93 time frame. Now here we're going to show you some options that are awesome, some of the best you can get, and also some that are like not so good. And if you want to see me setting one of these up for my own personal Delta kit, wait for that one, that's part 2. Now, these duty belts were rigger made, not necessarily made by any one company, but that design did inspire many other companies moving forward. And in fact, there are still duty belt designs that are almost exactly the same. Of course, materials and minor things change, but the idea stays constant. And let's talk about, first up, the most primo example, one that you can buy from Squadron Sew Shop, and that is his Delta Rigger duty belt. Now, this is going to be top of the cake. This is a modern reproduction, but features everything you need from that style, including correct materials. You have your buckle up here. This, I believe, is a design from AC Hardware, although those from Nexus are also correct, the 2-inch square SR buckles. You have the Alice style webbing all the way around, which gives it some rigidity. And your thinner webbing material right here that attaches the buckle to the belt system. I believe this is 4088, but I'll double check that in the description below. And truthfully, it's that simple. On the inside, he did include some Velcro. You can use this with either an inner belt, although I don't see a lot of evidence of that being used, but it can also help keep the things from sliding around that are attached to this belt, just some extra rigidity there. If you want an example that is as close to this as possible, but not one that was actually used there, because let's face it, those are unobtainium, your next best bet is going to be going with a vintage Eagle Industries one. This thing is massive. No way this is ever going to fit me, but I wanted to get this because it is an original example back from the early days of Eagle Industries. And this is a design inspired directly from those duty belts used by Delta and other operators during that time period. Here, we see a Nexus square buckle. This one particularly is dated 1987. In some cases, they did have an overstock of square buckles, but this one could be that old as well. And as you can see, we have the Alice style webbing going all the way around, a thin strip of Velcro on the inside, and your thin nylon webbing here on the outside to attach the buckle. This, compared to this, is nearly identical. There are so many similarities here, and just basically a difference in manufacture and access to materials. With that being said, Eagle Industries is still a company, and they have since made more duty belts that are very similar. This one is an example from the 2000s. As you can see, it has a different buckle. Of course, I've seen a lot of examples and your buckles may vary, but otherwise it's pretty much exactly the same. All you would need to do is take this to a tailor and have the buckle removed and changed, and you have a nearly identical piece to the one that was issued in the late 80s, early 90s. But I ran into a bit of a Goldilocks situation. This belt is too small. This belt is too large. So I had to get one that was custom made. And what I did was I purchased a Blackhawk Riggers belt and harvested all the materials from there that I could, pulled up new materials, as well as a vintage square buckle to make this piece right here. This I brought to a local tailor of mine, and he helped me custom make this belt from all the scrap material that I had, as well as some original material to come up with this. And this, I would argue, is probably one of your best bets if you cannot find one of the vintage Eagle Industries ones or don't want to wait for a Squadron Sew Shop one. As you can see, I kept a ton of the design pieces the same, from the external thinner webbing up top, which is the exact same as those on Eagle Industries belts, the thin Velcro inside the middle here, and an ITW Nexus square buckle right up front. The biggest issue I had was, I think I'm gonna say it's my fault for not communicating it clearly enough to the tailor, but if you'll notice, the way that this buckle piece is attached is with a square stitch right here, whereas on my custom version, it's rectangular and going all the way through. This isn't really too big of an issue for me. It does the job just fine, and when it's covered with pouches and a bunch of other beautiful kit stuff, it's not really gonna be noticeable, and it's custom made to perfect spec otherwise, so I'm not gonna lose sleep over it, but that is a thing to note. If you do get these custom made, make sure all of your dimensions and all the stitching is properly spaced. Now, with that being said, it does seem like you have a lot of options, but there's a lot of things out there that are not correct whatsoever that I've seen people buy and use for their kits. The first one is this generic style duty belt. This was purchased off of eBay relatively inexpensively to harvest some materials, but from a distance it kind of looks okay. The thing is, you're missing that internal locking structure with the extra Velcro that goes behind the buckle. The Velcro is nearly top to bottom on the inside, and the buckle is just a generic plastic 2-inch buckle, not an ITW Nexus one. Now again, this is great for harvesting material, especially if you want to custom make your own, but something like this, as cheap as they may look, is not correct. And frankly, under-engineered. But I do have an example that's over-engineered that I also see people buy, and that's modern duty belts, such as this one from Tactical Tailor. Tactical Tailor is one of the companies that came from all of those rig or sew shops in the military, so the design is similar enough, but it is not correct, and here's a couple of things that show that you're not getting the right belt. Number one, odds are the buckles are not correct. This I got for a stellar deal. I wanted to use as an example, which is why it's missing half of the stuff, but the buckle is not an ITW Nexus one, or it's not an AC Hardware one. Additionally, while I do have an internal belt here, the Velcro does go top to bottom on the inside, and all along the edge of the belt, you will see an additional piece of nylon to kind of sew up and clean up the ends. It's not open top like all the other belt examples. And these can be had really cheaply, but in no way, shape, or form are these correct. Yes, it's a duty belt. Yes, it has that overlapping Velcro on the inside, but unfortunately not correct for the Delta kits. So what I would encourage you to do is go look very hard and very diligently for one of those vintage Eagle Industries belts, or purchase one from Squadron Sew Shop. If you're in a bit of a pickle and can't find that perfect match for you, get one custom made from a local tailor, but again, make sure that it's got all the proper dimensions and stitch spacing. You're also going to need to provide some of your own materials for it. Or if you can make your own, go for that as well. I'm sure the design is not too hard to figure out, so if you can get it done, get it done. Stay tuned for part 2, where I'm going to show you how I kit out this belt with all of the different Delta accessories. This is The Gear Locker. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Hold your pants up, and we'll see you guys in the next one.